Thank you for joining us today. We have Erik Carter. He's an attorney out of our Indianapolis office. He has written an article which we have posted on our website, dadsdivorce.com. The name of the article is, What is Visitation Interference and What Can You Do About It? Erik, thank you for joining us today. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. We have, as I indicated earlier, we have put your article on our website, dadsdivorce.com. My first question really would be, when you're referring to visitation interference, are you setting up what could potentially be a filing of a motion for contempt?
There's actually a couple of remedies. One of them would be a motion for contempt. One of the downsides of motion for contempt is that they take a long time to be heard. Another remedy that really isn't used that much in family law is what's called an injunction. An injunction is a court order to enforce an order. I explain it to clients and they say, it's ridiculous. I have an order that says I have parenting time. Why do I need an order to enforce it? And the reason is twofold. Number one, injunctions are more readily enforced by police officers. And number two, it's a clear message from the judge to the other party that, I hate to say the orders are serious, but the orders are serious and not to be interfered with. So yeah, those are the two remedies. The sort of longer term one is the motion for contempt, which does carry sanctions, attorney's fees, and could be loss of parenting time, make of parenting time. If it's severe enough, could be incarceration, but that's pretty unlikely. And then the more immediate one is a petition for injunction, and that does carry with it the sanction of attorney's fees also. So
when you say immediate, are you referring to as in you can get into court a lot faster than filing the motion for contempt?
That'd be correct. Injunctions usually carry with them, you have to allege that immediate and irreparable, in Indiana at least, you have to allege that immediate and irreparable harm will occur if the injunction is not granted relatively quickly. And the harm here would be, continual denial or interference with the parenting time.
Right. The
petition for contempt, like I said, is a longer term. The court takes those, sets them on the calendar, and it could be, weeks or months before you're in court to have her answer that. In the meantime, the parenting time has continued to be interfered with.
And we have something, I believe, similar to what you're saying in Indiana and Missouri is called a family access motion.
Okay.
And that gets you into court a lot faster than filing the motion for contempt. And with it, it does carry some penalties regarding an award of attorney's fees, compensatory time, and matters of that nature.
Okay. And I think that just kind of as an aside, I think it's real important for people listening that when we talk and when they read things on dadsdivorce.com, the actual title of what is discussed usually varies from state to state, but the concept usually exists in most states. Most states have an immediate remedy for parenting time interference, and sometimes if a client in another state talks to his or her lawyer and says, I'm looking for something, they called it an injunction or they called it family access, the lawyer can figure out what you're talking about. But if clients just walk in there and say, hey, my parenting time is being interfered with, the first reaction is, oh, let's fight him for contempt, and the client doesn't get the immediate relief they're looking for.
Right. So we've been talking about what the relief is, and as people are tuning in and listening, what exactly would be visitation interference?
Visitation interference is really anything that degrades or interferes with the quality of dad's parenting time with the children. It could be, the most obvious is a complete denial. Dad shows up and says, I want to see the children, and she says no and shuts the door, and he misses the weekend with the children. It could be more subtle. I had a case, an interesting case, where the children were taking prescription medications, and the mom on her own decided that only she could administer the medications. So every weekend when Dad had the children, Mom would drive over to his house Saturday afternoon and then Sunday afternoon to give their kids their medications. And obviously there's any number of problems with that, one being the implication that Dad can't be trusted to give medications to the children, to the obvious, Dad can't do anything with the children because Mom's going to show up sometime on Saturday to give these medications to the kids. And it really, really ruined his time with the children. It could be Mom stating, for example, you can have the children this weekend, but your girlfriend can't be around the kids when there's no basis for that other than Mom doesn't want the girlfriend around the kids. It could be, excessive phone calls to the children or to dad. Again, things that just interfere with his ability to spend one-on-one time with the children.
Now, when you say excessive phone calls, you're not advocating to not allow the children to have phone contact with the other parent when they're not with the custodial parent. You're just talking about excessive phone calls, I mean, more than 3-4 times a day unless some emergency situation arises, correct?
Correct. Yeah, but states clearly, state that children are allowed telephone access to actually both parents. They're allowed phone access to dad when they're with mom, and to mom when they're with dad. But there's a tipping point, and it's not defined anywhere. It's one of those, we know it when we see it. Like you said, maybe 3 phone calls a day. That actually might be too much for some people, but it's really not the kind of thing that people stand up and take notice. 3 or 4 phone calls an hour to the children, and usually directly to the children, to the point where the children's attention is taken from whatever they're doing with dad to the phone call with mom. That would be the interference with visitation.
And that not only interferes with the visitation, but also is a detriment to the child, because now they're relying upon the other parent that they need to constantly be in touch with them.
Correct. And it actually does interfere with dad's status as parent, because it degrades the quality of his parental relationship with the children.
Now, we have some listeners who are tuning in, and they're unfortunately experiencing where during the visitations that mom would be late. Now, would that be cause for visitation interference, which would reduce the quality and quantity of time that that parent spends with their child or children?
Absolutely. For a couple of reasons. One of them is there's a court order that should actually clearly state when the time begins and when the time ends. And the unfortunate interpretation of most orders is that there's no sort of like moving time period. If the visitation begins Friday at 6 and ends Sunday at 6, for example, there's usually nothing in the order that says, now if the time began Friday at 8 o'clock, it gets to end Sunday at 8 o'clock. It usually doesn't say a 48-hour period. It's usually defined as a time to time. So if mom is late, she's just shaved off time from dad's quality time with the kids.
And we've discussed what potential remedies there are in Missouri and Indiana. Check with your local attorney in the state that you're experiencing these issues in. Unfortunately, we have run out of time, but I wanted to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to speak with us regarding your article, which is What is Visitation Interference and What Can You Do About It? Again, this is on our website, dadsdivorce.com. You'll be able to click on the actual article itself. You'll also be able to access this interview as well as other interviews that we have done in the past, dadsdivorce.com. And again, there's Ask a Lawyer question. If you want some follow-up, we can try to address any questions that are proposed to us on Ask a Lawyer, which is on dadsdivorce.com. Erik, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks, Dan. Appreciate it.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.